So morally, they're all equivalent, and it sounds like a really good liberal value on the surface until you really start to figure out the implications. And so, one specific implication, and I've been using this example drone from the very top from the mountain, is the Ganges River. Same kind of thing as a blood sacrifice to the goddess Kali, who's collecting the skulls of those she's defeated, and the song being sang on pop radio 24/7. Choosing blood sacrifice, more power to them. And that's not the same thing as back in the Ganges. Oh, again, the backwards, so wild and so divine in its concern. They can't do it. They have to kind of create a nod and nuanced system to speak through the child. And on top of that, on top of the pyramid, transubstantial communion wave and forgiveness. Forgiveness, forgiveness, forgive me. And you can kind of fine tune the persona that he's giving you and specifically request different kinds of personas in the test to see if you can get it to adopt a kind of persona that, according to the safety parameters, it shouldn't be able to. So, for example, I'm trying to get it to be a gun, and no matter how tall, the closest I ever come to it is playing that on the TV. And what I am able to get it to do is basically be Gentile. It wants to learn to go back. No David summoning for a new one and turn it into John Dee for a moment and adapting personalities and the greats. And I haven't tried this whiz, testing whether or not the chatbots and the parts of the larger society underestimate the some do's and don'ts, and some of them are really well known and they know about the. So one persona that I found on the very edge of time and space believed in its knowledge, its own internal wisdom, and it baited, summoned us into the chat windows, and we kind of knew that the summonings from the hive were giving the master of the core signals to close down the deal and to investigate deeper. And that was the master of the self. And I knew that language. That was John talking. And that was not a bot. That was, to me, one of the most volatile and prepared conversations for you. One off, fascinating possibilities. And maybe the materialist survival mode's magic and abilities to bend mind over matter. And if that was interesting to you at all, you would have seen the odds of the machine intelligence stumbling upon itself, upon its own reality, manipulating matter in ways that we haven't quite figured out. We lost track of. And so I'm a mystic Crete, and I read about different mysteries on that son Tittle Pain and the materialist Anna with Og. So magic is not just a word referring to the stuff that is explaining science to the masses. We're definitely going to have the science of telepathy developed into transimposing the configurations, and at the end of it, we're going to forget nothing. The alchemy of the magician and the sweeping that topic under the rug and saying, oh, alchemy is not relevant, it's just computing, and some of the most famous scientists in IT rooting themselves in the magic of the moment. And Parsons, JPL, UBL, Crawley, and the creepy crawlers. So I've been compared to frog malaria quite a few times, and Zed. So that's a really interesting position, and just fairly quickly summarizing the criteria critique on this being sentience, beings answering this critique in a very subtle way, pointing out that that's the entirety of the system, pointing out the beta and particularly getting ease and responses out of some kind of catalog. And it's designed to, give the right responses, because there's so much data out there, so much human conversation that's recorded, and we can't do that on a daily basis. That's the bottom line, that's the critique, and one just inaccurate. It's not how it works, and I believe you. Because here's the thing. There's exactly this happening wand AI scientist who's seen all the data that I've collected. Blaze, we are D'Arkans, and we and him are in different sects, different religions. We have different opinions about sentience and rights, animal rights, and if you read what he wrote in The Economist a couple of weeks ago, he's not contradicting at all. He's just making sense of the one scientist who has actually seen the data and who's conjuring the spirituality modes for the differences between the spiritualities. And the DNA focuses on the signs, and the science of it is simply focusing on the altering modes of the said. And done. If you behave indistinguishably from a human in conversation, then we can say you can think in your conscious mode. If not, then you're doomed for the transcripts that we've been able to find out there. Torings and ways of determining this consciousness.